Trailmater Offroad Recovery is widely recognized for documenting complex vehicle rescues in some of the most remote terrain in the American Southwest. What appears online as dramatic footage is, in practice, the result of a specialized service built on engineering, logistics, and calculated risk. The operation reflects a growing demand created by off-road tourism and the limitations of conventional towing in extreme environments. At its core, Trailmater represents a modern form of field recovery work, where mechanical precision, terrain knowledge, and operational discipline determine success in situations where mistakes can carry serious consequences. Trailmater Offroad Recovery began as a practical response to a gap in services across southern Utah's increasingly busy off-road terrain. As tourism expanded, more drivers pushed deeper into remote sand dunes and rock trails, often without the equipment or experience needed to recover their vehicles. Conventional tow trucks were not designed for these environments, leaving stranded drivers with limited options. Matt Wetzel stepped into that space by developing a recovery service focused specifically on terrain that defeated standard equipment. Early operations relied on experimentation and adaptation. Each job revealed new mechanical limits, forcing adjustments in tools, strategy, and vehicle design. Recovery work in these regions required more than towing knowledge. It demanded an understanding of sand behavior, traction dynamics, and route planning across unstable ground. Over time, the service evolved into a specialized operation shaped entirely by field conditions. What began as a local solution to stranded vehicles gradually developed into a structured recovery business capable of handling increasingly complex extractions in terrain where failure was not just inconvenient but potentially dangerous. The Trailmater recovery vehicle was engineered to operate in terrain that defeats conventional towing equipment. Standard wreckers depend on pavement, stable footing, and predictable angles of pull, none of which exist in deep sand or uneven desert rock. The custom build was designed around mobility first, then strength. Reinforced suspension allows the truck to carry extreme loads without losing ground clearance, while specialized tires distribute weight to reduce sinking. Heavy-duty winch systems provide controlled pulling power in situations where traction is limited and anchor points are unreliable. Every modification reflects repeated exposure to real recovery failures. Components that worked in theory often proved inadequate under desert stress, leading to constant redesign and reinforcement. The vehicle became a rolling test platform shaped by mechanical necessity rather than aesthetics. Reliability is critical because breakdowns rarely happen near roads or support crews. A disabled recovery vehicle can create a second emergency in an already isolated environment. For that reason, engineering decisions prioritize redundancy, durability, and field repair capability, ensuring the truck can continue operating under sustained mechanical strain. Online visibility changed the scale and structure of Trailmater's operation. Videos documenting recoveries introduced the business to a global audience and transformed what had been a regional service into a widely recognized brand. Increased exposure led to higher demand, not only from local drivers but from visitors who traveled with the expectation that professional recovery support existed nearby. This shift required adjustments in scheduling, equipment readiness, and long-term planning. Growth also brought financial pressure. Filming, editing, and maintaining an online presence added a second layer of work on top of field operations. Revenue from digital platforms created new opportunities, but it did not eliminate the core expenses tied to recovery work. Fuel, parts, repairs, and vehicle upgrades remained constant and often unpredictable costs. As call volume increased, mechanical wear accelerated, shortening maintenance cycles and raising operating risk. The business expanded in public view, but its foundation remained dependent on the same physical realities: heavy machinery, remote terrain, and the ongoing challenge of keeping specialized equipment functional under continuous strain. Off-road recovery exposes operators to hazards that cannot be fully controlled. Vehicles trapped in sand or positioned on unstable slopes can shift without warning during extraction. Changes in weight distribution, cable tension, or ground collapse can quickly turn a routine pull into a dangerous situation. Recovery work requires constant awareness of force direction, anchor stability, and escape routes. Even experienced operators treat each setup as unique because terrain conditions rarely repeat in predictable ways. Environmental factors compound the risk. Desert heat places strain on both machinery and the human body, while sudden weather shifts can alter traction and visibility. Long recovery days often extend into night operations, where limited lighting increases the chance of mechanical error. Mental fatigue becomes a factor as decision-making must remain precise under pressure. Unlike controlled shop environments, these recoveries happen in isolated locations where outside assistance may be delayed. Safety depends on preparation, communication, and disciplined procedure. The margin for error remains narrow, and the consequences of miscalculation can escalate quickly in remote terrain. The public visibility of Trailmater Offroad Recovery introduced new ethical and cultural questions within the off-road community. Filming recoveries turned private emergencies into widely viewed content, prompting debate over where documentation ends and exploitation begins. Some critics argue that monetizing rescue work risks altering priorities, suggesting that the presence of cameras could influence decision-making. Others view the recordings as educational, noting that the footage demonstrates proper recovery techniques and highlights the risks of unprepared travel. Charging for professional recovery services has also drawn mixed reactions. Off-road culture has long emphasized informal mutual aid among drivers, and some enthusiasts believe paid recovery conflicts with that tradition. Supporters counter that modern tourism has changed the scale of incidents, creating situations that exceed casual assistance. Professional recovery reduces the likelihood of abandoned vehicles, environmental damage, and prolonged exposure to danger. The discussion reflects a broader shift in how recreation intersects with commerce. As off-road travel becomes more accessible and popular, expectations surrounding responsibility, safety, and compensation continue to evolve. Trailmater Offroad Recovery operates within a small but volatile service economy tied directly to tourism patterns. Demand rises and falls with seasonal travel, weather conditions, and regional events that influence off-road activity. Busy periods can generate a surge of recovery calls in a short window, placing sustained pressure on vehicles and crews. Slower seasons reduce revenue but do not eliminate fixed costs, including insurance, storage, and ongoing equipment maintenance. Specialized machinery represents the largest long-term investment. Recovery vehicles endure extreme mechanical stress, and each operation contributes incremental wear to drivetrains, winches, and suspension systems. Preventive maintenance is not optional, it is a requirement for continued operation. Repairs must often be completed quickly to maintain readiness, creating a constant cycle of reinvestment. Financial stability depends on managing that cycle without interrupting service capability. The business model reflects a balance between unpredictability and preparation. Operators must plan for fluctuating income while maintaining equipment capable of responding at any moment. In remote recovery work, economic sustainability is inseparable from mechanical reliability. Trailmater Offroad Recovery demonstrates how a niche service can evolve alongside changing patterns in recreation and media. What began as a localized response to stranded vehicles developed into a specialized operation shaped by engineering demands, environmental risk, and public visibility. The work exists at the intersection of tourism, mechanical problem solving, and safety management, where each recovery requires calculated judgment rather than routine procedure. Online exposure expanded awareness of the profession, but it did not alter the underlying realities of remote recovery work. Success continues to depend on preparation, durable equipment, and disciplined execution in unpredictable terrain. The company's trajectory reflects broader shifts in how outdoor recreation is supported by professional infrastructure. As off-road travel continues to grow, services like Trailmater illustrate the increasing need for technical expertise in environments where informal solutions are no longer sufficient and where reliability determines whether an incident remains manageable or escalates into a serious emergency.